So, welcome to our discussion on environmental economics. In our last class, we discussed about sustainable development. That means, we said that growth with accountability towards the environment is actually what is required. So, countries must grow, but they should grow at in such a way that they are on the sustainable path. Now, this accountability is something which does not come automatically, because productive units at the micro level, if we think the firms, the individuals, they have no incentive to be responsible for the environment. Why? Because there is a conflict between private cost versus social interest. Society wants to get clean environment, but the cost has to be borne at the individual or private level. That is why the impact, that means what we need to ensure that growth is sustainable, productive units, they must be accountable for the environment. Since that accountability does not come automatically, we need to impose regulation. Okay? So, we need to impose a regulation. Government or policymakers should impose regulation on the productive units to reshape their behavior, right. And the moment we impose regulation, then a question comes to our mind that what would be the impact of this regulation. So, that is why this module what we are going to discuss is basically impact of environmental regulation on firms' competitiveness. Impact of firms or impact of environmental regulation on firms' competitiveness. Right. And for this topic, we are going to use a particular journal article for our reference, and the reference would be, this is not available in your textbook. So, you have to clearly keep this thing in mind. The reference for this topic what we are going to discuss, we will use two journal articles. The first article that we are going to discuss about in today's class, that is a new conception about environment competitiveness relationship. Okay. This is the article name by Michael Porter and Van der Linde. Okay. This is the journal article, right. Now, as the name suggests, name of this article says a new conception about the environment competitiveness relationship. Now, since the article says it is a new conception, that means there must be some old conception about this relationship. What is that old or traditional conception? So, let me write the traditional or old conception. Old conception about this environment competitiveness relationship. The old conception says that there is a trade-off between environment and competitiveness. That means society cannot achieve both the things simultaneously. Society cannot achieve clean environment and high degree of competitiveness from its productive units simultaneously. If the society wants the firms to be more competitive, then society must sacrifice the quality of environment. On the other hand, if the society wants to enjoy clean environment, then the firms should sacrifice their competitiveness. That means we can say that there is a trade-off, between clean environment and environmental quality. And this type of trade-off we have already studied in our principles of economics as well. So, old conception is there is a trade-off between clean environment and this is clean environment and firms competitiveness. This is the trade-off. So, that means indirectly we can write that there is a trade-off between between firms' financial performance and their environmental performance. Now, the question is why such trade-off? Okay, this is the question. Why it is not possible for the firms or the productive units at the micro level to be environmentally sound and also exhibiting high degree of financial performance? That is the question. Why the society cannot achieve clean environment and competitiveness together? The reason is, the moment we impose regulation, then the firms, they need to divert some of their productive resources for pollution abatement. Okay? Pollution abatement, it is not free, it involves some amount of cost. So, that means imposition of environmental regulation compels the firms to divert some of their productive resources for pollution abatement, which could otherwise be utilized for the production of goods and services, isn't it? Firm have a fixed amount of capital, and that capital, let us say that a firm has a K bar amount of capital, and that can be used by K1 bar and let us say K2 bar. Okay? K2 bar. This is something which you have already discussed in the context of environmental Kuznets curve. So, let us say K1 bar is used for production of goods and services, and this is used for abatement, pollution abatement. So, that means when there is no regulation, this entire K bar amount of capital the firms could have used only for production purpose. After imposition of regulation, for production purpose, the availability of capital is only K1 bar, because K2 bar is diverted for abatement. That is the reason what we are saying, that since imposition of environmental regulation compels the firm to divert some of their productive resources for pollution abatement, they will become less competitive compared to other firms in other states or other countries elsewhere who are actually not subjected to this type of regulation. That is the idea. That is the traditional view that explains this trade-off, that they cannot achieve clean environment, that means environmental performance and financial performance, it cannot be achieved simultaneously. You must sacrifice one to achieve the other. That is the reason. Okay. Now, Michael Porter, he actually stood against this traditional wisdom and came up with some hypothesis later on, which became popularized as Porter hypothesis in the literature. Porter hypothesis. What is this hypothesis? Michael Porter said actually that a well designed environmental regulation if implemented properly it may enhance firms' financial performance also. That means a regulation may result in higher output with lower degree of pollution. That means it may result in an win-win situation. Win-win opportunity. So, regulation brings in win-win opportunity. Okay. So, that means it helps firms to achieve actually higher amount of output compared to the situation of no regulation, and it will result in lower amount of pollution also. So, society can actually achieve both the things together if the regulation is well designed and properly implemented. So, Michael Porter stood against the traditional wisdom which says that there is a trade-off. He said no, actually there is no such trade-off. Society or the firms can achieve both the things together, and regulation may bring in win-win opportunity for the firms if such regulation is well designed and properly implemented. Okay? Properly implemented. that generated lot of debate and skepticism among economists, okay, among the opponents. The moment Michael Porter came up with this hypothesis, then people started questioning about this hypothesis. They said, if pollution abatement is actually good for the firms, or regulation is actually good for the firms, why is it required? They would have already abated the pollution. If pollution abatement results in higher degree of output and there is no such trade off, why do you require that regulation? It is like a free lunch. That means there are a number of, let us say, 10 rupees notes or 100 rupees notes lying on the road, and people are not picking it up. Somebody has to tell you, go and pick. Look at there, some 100 rupees or 10 rupees are lying on the road. Do you think it is reasonable? If something is good, people would have already done that. If there are 10 rupees, 100 rupees notes lying on the road, why do you require somebody to tell? Somebody would have already picked it up. So they started asking this question. That means they said, if the question they ask, if regulation is good, why is it required to be implemented? So they said that firms would have automatically controlled their pollution. Firms would have automatically controlled their pollution. That is what they said. Okay. Now, Michael Porter said, yes, regulation is good, but all the good things people may not adopt automatically if something from some force from the outside is not imposed. There is no guarantee that firms themselves automatically will control for all the pollution if there is no such regulation. And he basically came up with a number of arguments to establish his hypothesis, and those reasons, those arguments are very, very important for us to understand. We will discuss those arguments in favor of Porter's hypothesis one by one. So, this is arguments in favor of Porter hypothesis. So, argument number 1, what Michael Porter said, that a regulation helps the firms identifying their inefficiencies. So, the first argument is a regulation helps the firms identifying their inefficiencies. Regulation helps the firms identifying their inefficiencies. For example, let us say that a firm is using coal to produce cement. When regulation is not imposed, firms may not be realizing the way it is utilizing coal to produce cement. There are a lot of inefficiencies in the coal utilization. Okay? So, the moment regulation is imposed and they are mandated, the regulation says the firm can emit, the cement company can emit only 20 kgs of CO2 per ton of cement, then that will compel the firm to look into, is there any efficiency in my energy utilization? Is there any inefficiency in my oil utilization? So on and so forth. So, regulation then helps the firm identifying their possible areas of inefficiency, and once the firms identify the inefficiency, the firms can start efficient utilization of resources with no or insignificant additional cost. And once energy is utilized efficiently, that will immediately result in less pollution. So, what will happen? Firm's cost of energy will come down, that will result in more output, and firm's emission of carbon dioxide gas also will come down. But that was not possible earlier, they were not realizing. I can give you another real life example. Suppose this class is scheduled on 11 o'clock, then what I observe that some students will come at 11:05 and 11:10, and every day I have to say that please come on time. Then one day what the instructor decides, exactly on 11 o'clock the instructor will close the door, so no further entry is possible at after 11 o'clock. Then the students will be thinking, students will start identifying, is there any way by which I can efficiently utilize my time? Maybe I need to go to mess at a different time where there is less crowd. Maybe I need to start from my hostel itself instead of chit chatting with my friends little early, that will reduce my time. Maybe I need to sleep early and at night and get up early so that I can finish all the morning works early, that will save couple of my hours. So, if at all there are inefficient ways by which I am utilizing my time, the students will start identifying those once the restriction is imposed, once the regulation is imposed in the form that no further entry into the classroom is allowed after 11 o'clock. That the students were not doing it earlier, they were not realizing the essence of efficient utilization of time. And same thing happening in this context, in absence of regulation. So, in absence of regulation of regulations, firms were not realizing the essence of efficient utilization of resources. And that is actually the first reason what Michael Porter said, that regulation helps the firms identifying possible areas of inefficiency on which the firms are operating. Once they identify the resource use inefficiency, they can immediately improve upon. So, that will save the cost of energy at the same time, that will result in lower amount of pollution. So, that is the first reason for achieving both the things together.